Hi, one viewer on Facebook. We're just getting started.
Okay, we're live.
We are live on all channels.
Yes, we are live.
Are we live on Instagram? It has
Welcome
something.
to American Job Solvers Politics.
We are now
We're
live
now live.
on
There we go.
Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook.
Wait, do it. Look, someone should take a picture of this.
Yes, Daniel, can you
You
turn
take a
the
picture
things towards all of
Of
this?
this going on. We have 3 cameras.
We have
going on.
3 separate cameras.
Yes.
Okay, hello everyone. Okay,
This is
hello everyone, and welcome to How Andrew Yang Can Fix Our Democracy, a live stream by the Dallas-Fort Worth Yang Gang. I'm Kennedy. We have Tony, Laura, Hexel, Daniel, and Johnsy. Does anyone want to say an opening statement really quick for themselves? Should we just get into it?
I'm gonna adjust this one because it can barely see you.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna adjust this one.
There you go.
Start off by complimenting ourselves with this.
Yes,
Oh,
Hexel,
I
talk
can
about the
talk
buttons.
About that. Yeah. You actually different angle. So if you can see, we have our volunteer buttons. These are not for sale. These are purely earned by our volunteers who put on a lot of effort. And we've got different buttons that are earned different ways. And this button right here, show it close to the camera, each one of them. That's our Key 7 button. And basically what that means is if you are part of our Key 7 leadership in DFW, then this is the button that recognizes you as a Key 7 leader. And there's currently 2 Key 7 leadership positions open. So if you want to be one of my right-hand men or women, then definitely let us know and you can join our Key 7 leadership team. So only about 7 people actually get this pin because it's Key 7. So the next pin, OG Gangster, this is actually very exclusive because if you haven't already qualified, then you can no longer qualify for it. But basically what this means is if you've been with the DFW Yang Gang before the second debate, so basically you've been Yang Gang for months now, then you're entitled to this original gangster pin. And this is a great way to kind of show off how long you've been Yang Gang. And if you've been with the Yang Gang for a long time, definitely reach out to us and let us know so you can get this special original gangster pin. So hold it up really close to each of the cameras. That's what it looks like. And up there, original gangster. The next one is the authentic gangster. So this is one that anyone can earn. Basically, all you have to do is follow us on our social media and attend at least 2 events in person. And so that could be a meetup, that can be a watch party. If you're like, there's not enough events near me, then you can actually start your own event and then qualify for the authentic gangster. But the easiest one is just show up to a coffee social or to a workshop. That's the easiest way to get it. So follow us on social media and let us see your face. And that's the next best way to get one. Top Gangster. So Top Gangster is for anyone who basically goes above the call of duty for the gang. And so that means you've hosted an event or you've attended 4 or 5 events in a single month, or you've just done anything that no one has thought of yet, like really done something creative out of the box. And so this is the one that we use to recognize the people who really put themselves out there and really put effort into the gang. And we really appreciate those volunteers a lot because this Yang Gang is fueled by people power.
And then the last one is event host.
Yeah, this next one is also easy to get, is event host. And one of the things that we recognize is that it's really hard to organize an event, even something simple like a meetup or a workshop or a phone banking party. And so to recognize all of who host an event is event host pin. And you could either start your own event, like you can think of something creative out of the box. You can do a phone banking party. You can do a sign walking, whatever event you host, even if you're the only person at your event, right? If you take the initiative to make something happen, then we need that. We need more of that. And so that's why we have this event host pin to recognize all of our people who take that initiative.
Oh, we also have American Jobs Factory here.
Yeah. So we have another special guest. We have American Jobs Factory. You want to say a few words?
I am American Jobs Factory. This is Daniel. Hey, I just wanted to hang out with the Dallas Yang Gang. Oh, I feel like he wants me to take this. So he has something that I do not have that I've been trying to get for a long time is a working mic. So is still in production to get a working mic. I've bought several mics online. They do not work with my setup. So looking for a blue one, and it is in the works. But check out this awesome shirt I got. And you can get that from any of my videos. It's in the link. It's in the description. There's a link. So
Very cool.
and get your Yang Gang swag faster. But all the proceeds still go to the campaign, so that's a plus too. So I don't know. I'm just here, glad to be here, and we're going to talk policy, right?
Absolutely.
Right, Hexel? Over to you.
All right, and then I'm going to do last few announcements, and then I'll turn it over to Kennedy. Kennedy's prepared a lot of great notes. The last thing I want to say is definitely watch our social media over the next few hours because we'll be posting details on all of the watch parties. Debate night is Tuesday night, and it's going to be a big one. And so I know that we're going to have a watch party in Denton, in Plano, in Dallas, and in Fort Worth. So you have 4 options across the Metroplex. Our hope is that no one should have the watch party was too far. We're going to have one very close to you, wherever you live. And so...
And I will be with the Yang Gang in Ohio, so...
Oh, you'll be in the Yang Gang in Ohio. Yeah, so if you're watching from Ohio. All right. So that's all I had. And so I'm going to turn the mic over to Kennedy.
Okay. So today we're talking about how Andrew Yang can fix democracy. He has a lot of policies on this. We're going to be doing about probably 4 or 5 on this, just kind of touching on all of them. But there are more resources on DallasForYang.com. I think we're going to be updating that a lot more, especially with I write up a lot of notes for these workshops as well as other meetings, and I'm going to start posting those. So if you want resources for your meetings, or if you're just not getting enough Yang content, then there is go to DallasForYang.com.
Yeah. Website is DallasForYang.com or DallasYangGang.com. Both of those work. They're both good. Yeah, so you can't go wrong. You make it very easy. DallasForYang.org, DallasForYang.com, DallasYangGang.com. They all go to the same place. But if you check out our blog, that's where you'll find her notes. In fact, you've already posted some notes on the blog right now.
Yes.
So anyone who's watching, you can go to DallasYangGang.com, check the latest blog post, and you'll see a lot of the content we're talking about today.
Okay. So, there is a lot of dark money, as Andrew Yang calls it, in politics. That's kind of like a very obvious point to make. There's not really any American citizens that are like, oh, for sure, like no corporations and rich people are influencing our election by donating millions. It's kind of a very common sense issue. There are court cases like Citizens United versus the Federal Election Committee and Buckley versus Vallejo that allows for corporations, super PACs, and groups to just shove unlimited money into politicians and lobbyist groups, and in a way kind of money launder it so that way that you can't. One way that Andrew Yang wants to curb that is by providing democracy dollar vouchers, which, if you're in the Yang Gang, provides every American citizen that is eligible for voting with $100 every federal election, so every 4 years, to put towards any candidate they want in whichever form they want. So you can give $50 to one candidate, $50 for another. You can put all 100 eggs in one basket. So it's kind of up to you. One of the big things on Twitter that I see a lot is people say that Bernie recently implemented this or stole this from Andrew Yang, and that is actually not true. And so if you're getting in an argument on Twitter and you say, oh, Bernie stole this, not quite. He did have that policy in place actually in 2015 when he ran. So don't die on that hill, basically.
Can you say more about that difference? Because I have something to comment about that.
Here, you comment.
Oh, yeah. So on the topic of what Bernie Sanders' plan is and what Andrew Yang's plan is, so there's a couple of distinctions. First is, to Kennedy's point, he has talked about this plan before, but there's 2 things that are worth knowing as an important talking point. One is Sanders' plan does not put a dollar amount for how much each voter would receive. And this is a big point on Equal Citizens when they do the analysis and breakdown of every candidate's democracy platform, is that they like that Bernie Sanders has publicly financed elections as part of his general platform, but he doesn't go into as much detail and specificness as Andrew Yang's plan does. So even though he has a similar plan, it doesn't have the level and completeness that Andrew Yang does.
Very good. Thank you, Hexel. There is actually one place that already has democracy dollars implemented, and that is Seattle, and what's the other place? Florida. So, Tony, do you want to say anything about how Seattle does it, or Florida?
I can comment on Seattle. So basically, with Seattle, they implemented it, or they voted on it in 2015, and they just passed it February 12th of this year. Basically, you can give up to, my understanding is like $100 per candidate. The thing is, though, if the candidate accepts democracy dollars, they can only spend a cap amount on their campaign. So you can't get both in a sense. There's actually there's a Vice episode on it where there's two candidates running for it. One chooses not to take the democracy dollars, while the other one does. But one's basically choosing to get money from other sources without getting money from democracy dollars. But it is a good dynamic, though. Like, it allows a candidate to go out to the public to act, in a sense, though, they're asking for the democracy dollar donation.
Yeah, and that's a very good use of the candidate's time, because I think it's about 60% of the candidate's time is spent actually fundraising and campaigning and trying to get money, and then only 40% of that time is looking for solutions to solve the problems that you all elected them for. So that's another benefit to the democracy dollars. Yeah.
So I was going to back up and talk about the need for it because of the problem with dark money. It leads to things like why we still have a military-industrial complex, why Big Pharma has such a big influence. Just so many ways that corporate dollars have overtaken our democracy. So this is a way where we can wash it out with a ratio 8-1, where democracy comes back to what the people want and not be overshadowed by corporations.
Yeah, and I'll add that one thing too there. Huge, because part of the reason that this democracy plan is really important is because it really is important that the amount of money that a politician would receive from people needs to outweigh lobbyist money. Otherwise, if the amount of money that you receive from public financing is less than or equal to what they already receive, then the washout effect doesn't work. Right, like they could say, well, I could receive $1,000 from the public, or I could receive $50,000 from a lobbyist, right? And so making it clear that the ratio is there is really important to emphasize why it works.
Okay, that's a lot of really good things on democracy dollars. There are not very many criticisms that I have seen, but so we're gonna move on to gerrymandering, which has been a problem as far back as 1812, which is actually where the term comes from, which is insane. Like, we signed the Declaration of Independence in 1776, and not even 30 years later, we already have crooked politicians. So the way to remove that is something called an efficiency gap. I have a graphic. It's very hard to see, but basically it counts the wasted votes. So if you look at an area that has been all Republican, but it has 3 Democratic votes. Those 3 votes are wasted. And so what you would do is you would add up all the wasted votes through a state. And if there is a bigger percentage of wasted votes for one party, then there's it points to gerrymandering as a problem, because there's so many cracking and packing that happened. So that is one way that you would find it. But the solution to stop gerrymandering would be to get a nonpartisan supermajority committee to redraw the district maps. And actually, California is already doing this. So that has been something that has been tried and tested, and is being effective in California. And we're live streaming, so it's kind of hard to put up like links for you to click, but definitely look up the efficiency gap if you have time.
Oh, and then remind them, go to the blog.
Yes, go to the blog. They're at Dallas for Yang, or DallasYangGang.com. We have a blog up that has a bunch of links. We're having technical.
The blog is up.
Yes, the phone is down, but the blog is up. Maybe that'll work.
We need to invest in more
tripods. The other thing that we talked about is congressional term limits. Andrew Yang supports a 12-year term limit for people serving in Congress. There's a lot of reasons that needs to happen. In 1854, a third of all seats changed House. Re-election rates now are between 90 and 98%, which is huge. We're not getting any new blood in there. I don't know if you guys watched the hearings with the Google and Apple CEOs, but they were atrocious. As a young person who grew up around technology, it was insane, just the ignorance that all of the politicians had for like what phones are and how the internet works. And it's hard to get anyone new in there with those high reelection rates and gerrymandering. Another thing that Andrew Yang points to is that having all of that power for so long actually causes brain damage. And so not only are they corrupt, they are brain damaged. They are not fit to be in service anymore. However, 13% of the House and 20% of the Senate will have served for almost 2 decades in 2020. What happened 2 decades ago? 20 years? So it was like 1999. My parents thought Y2K was going to happen. There's like a lot of things that they have seen that aren't necessarily like big.
We all thought Y2K was gonna happen.
I was not even alive then. R. Kelly was still making music. So like a lot of things that were happening. Does anyone want to comment?
Yeah, I have something to add to that too. Yeah, and something I appreciate that Kennedy brought up.
I'm not R. Kelly. Please don't say that.
I was mixing up the names that were being thrown at me with a K in it. But one of the things brought up is like there's a real mental effect, and there's also really an incentive effect where like there's a quote that Andrew Yang said in a recent interview. I think it was with Weinstein, where he said he does not fault people for behaving the way that they are incentivized to behave, right? If we create this system where, in Congress or with lobbyists that they're incentivized to behave a certain way, then we're going around complaining that things are the way they are. Then we need to change the incentives instead of acting and talking as if it's purely because we have all bad people. Because like Andrew said, a lot of times good, well-intentioned people go to Congress and they enter with the best of intentions, but they're incentivized to behave in destructive ways.
Yeah, so putting that, like applying that idea to the congressional members, that would be term limits would prevent like political professions, and they would focus more on getting bills passed that their constituents want, and they stay in touch with them instead of just trying to get reelected and spending all their time trying to get donor money to get reelected. So I think that term limits are great for any institution, but especially for Congress, I think it's very much needed to keep. So like things like situations like Mitch McConnell stopping things aren't going to happen, and
So it eliminates gridlock?
Yeah, exactly. It eliminates gridlock, and it keeps the representatives close to their constituents, what they want, instead of just their own political profession. Like I think that they should always have their day jobs and focus on their constituents. And term limits help a collaborative environment instead of an authoritarian one.
Right. Tony, you have something else?
No.
I have one more number. Jancy, do you have something to add? Well, I think the one last thing I'll throw in there for congressional term limits, I don't know if we mentioned this yet or not, but once you're in office, you have a 90% reelection rate.
Yeah, 90 to 98%.
Yeah, so once you're in, it's very hard to get that person out. And that's why we say when we talk about keeping fresh ideas and fresh blood moving, it's very literal, because if you have a 90-98%, then if you have a group that person simply doesn't represent or is not really concerned with, then that group, whether that community that's not represented by that legislature, they have to wait for a long, long time. Either they have to wait for that person to just straight up retire, or they have to wait for someone to come along who will beat the odds of unseating that person. And so if they have a 90 to 98% reelection rate, that means they have a 10 to 2% rate chance of being unseated. And so it definitely allows other groups who may feel marginalized or underrepresented to have their chance at having their voice heard.
Yeah, you can if you want.
Yeah, tell your Mayo Clinics.
Oh, well, I was.
You can speak loudly for all this stuff.
So in a lot of academic hospitals, they have unlimited term limits for their directors, and it causes an echo chamber and no new ideas. At Mayo Clinic, they have a term limits for their directors, and they rotate. And I think that sets up a more collaborative, less cutthroat environment where people respect each other, because the next person is going to someone that's below you is going to be the chair next year. So it's just a good environment. No one takes the power like to their head, and it's a good environment.
I will say one more thing before we kind of bring this one to the end. The other voting policies that Andrew has are ranked choice voting and automatic voter registration. Both of those can be found on a blog post at the DallasForYang.com blog site that goes way into it. But the biggest thing about ranked choice voting that people have questions on is the Electoral College, which is also kind of a hot button issue currently in America. Andrew Yang is not for abolishing the Electoral College, but he is for ranked choice voting, which I think would have to be through the state electoral college, but he didn't really specify that in his plans. As for the electoral college, there is currently a movement to get it abolished. 53% of Americans support getting rid of the electoral college. Ironically, they don't have the electoral votes to pass the bill through. So they are being shut down by their own system. But there is information on that, again, at the DallasForYang.com blog. Anyone else have anything to say before we?
A little bit to add to that. So I know this is why I try to force myself on a break so I don't monopolize the mic too much. But one more thing on the topic of the electoral college is that, in as much as like there is a majority of the country that would like to see it go away, like you gave the figure of 53%. There's 47% of the country that doesn't want to see it go away, and the reason is that there is a portion of the country that does benefit from the electoral college, and that portion of the country would, like you said, like the system prevents it from going away entirely. But the reason that that portion of the country doesn't want it to go away is because if you move to a pure popular vote system,
No one would ever go to Ohio.
yeah, like who's going to go into Iowa or Nebraska?
Like, well, no one comes to Nebraska with or without.
Yeah.
But like, no one would go to Iowa.
Right.
Yeah.
And so so there's a lot of people who like Andrew Yang's approach, where you create incentives and systems to move the entire country towards proportional, because we already have some states doing proportional. It doesn't require a major constitutional change.
Oh, sorry, real quick.
Yeah.
All of the DNC primaries are proportional, so that's like a.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, all the DNC primaries are proportional, but then also at the presidential level, then you create incentives to pick up electoral points in places that you would not have considered going. For example, if you have a small state, then that at least they have some electoral points, and you can grab those proportionally because you know they're not going to go all to a single party. Then if you're running a presidential campaign, you could add it to your strategy to pick up some easy points somewhere by just talking to people that no one's talked to yet. And so there's a whole slew of strategies that are created by proportionally distributing the electors as opposed to winner take all or popular vote. So there's some case to be made for striking in the middle that Andrew Yang does.
Okay. I think that about wraps it up, right, y'all?
Yeah.
Got anything else to add? Anyone from the Peanut Gallery?
Did we all? I know I say it all the time. Equal citizens. Have we talked about that yet?
You said in the beginning.
Okay.
We talked about it a little bit. Okay. Well, that is it for this Dallas for Yang live stream. Remember to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Meetup, YouTube, everywhere. If you have social media, look for us. I'm sure we're on there.
Yeah.
And thank you all for watching. Y'all have a
plug
good.
the debate night. Oh yeah.
Oh yes, yeah. Here, go.
All right. So for those of you in Collin County, we are planning on going to Rugby House. We actually have it on Collin County for Yang. We have Dallas is such a big area, so that's why we have an extra site for it. But our event will be at with Rugby House with the Collin County Democrats. The good thing about that is the local politicians will be there, so you can ask them questions. Like, have your questions prepared for those guys, because at the local level is where you actually get things done. So for those in Collin County, we do have our event posted for Rugby House for the debate night.
Yeah.
And all of the locations are listed. Are all the locations?
Oh,
yeah.
are all the locations listed? Do we have all of the watch parties online?
Not yet.
Right. Okay, watch out in the next 12 hours. We're going to have all of the watch party locations posted online. And again, we have a Dallas, Fort Worth, Denton, Plano. So all four corners of the Metroplex, there's a watch party. So if you're not already following us on social media, hit us on all of our social media. Thank you for everyone who follows us on Twitter. We recently crossed 1,500 Twitter followers.
1525 now.
1525. So if you guys can help us hit 2,000 Twitter followers by the end of the month,
We got a bunch of
that'll be epic.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Yay, thank you.
Instagram. Oh, sorry, Twitter. So yeah, and so those are all the places to follow us. And again, like we plugged at the very beginning, if you guys want to earn some pins, some buttons, and look as cool as these gangsters here, then the number one thing is to just show up and get involved. And there's lots of ways to earn some cool swag for free. So all right.
I have one question about the democracy dollars.
Yeah.
Because I haven't.
Yeah,
how is
you wanna
that
come
paid
around a
for?
little
Oh, how is it
That's
paid?
Yeah. How are the democracy dollars paid for? Do you guys know?
So Jancy asked, how are they paid for?
There's not a policy on his site that says how specifically they're paid for. The cop-out answer is taxes. But there are other policies he has. For instance, on fire prevention, on stopping huge wildfires that are in California, there are programs that he wants to implement that would save us billions and billions of dollars. That would easily pay for the democracy dollars and.
So, like, the short answer is the spending in some programs or some policies are paid for through the savings in other policies.
Yes.
Is that right? Because there's some policies, like you said, the wildfire policy that would just generate savings.
Yes.
And so it's one of those things where you have to look at the entire policy platform, and the entire thing's supposed to. That's good. That's a topic for another conversation. So. Oh.
Sure.
What am I telling?
Where you're going and all that.
I'm going to Ohio. I'll be there on Tuesday, and I will be with Fred, the felon, to see his new truck for Yang. So we will be putting out more content for Yang here for the debates, and I'm sure Andrew Yang will kill it once again. So that's what we're looking forward to.
With all 40 seconds. Okay, that wraps it up. Again, thank you all for watching. Follow us everywhere. And goodbye from the
All right, see you
DFW for
next
Yang.
time.
That's a lot of ending. I just turned the camera around. No. Okay.
Wow, that's our first time